Okay, I'm going to try to explain an idea which to me is extremely difficult to explain. In the 90s, there used to be these images that were printed out, on computer printers somehow. And I think they were ran through what we would call an algorithm now. And I was never good at this, but there was some way that you could like look at them. It's in the movie Mallrats, actually. You can look at them and you sort of space out and your eyes unfocus. And when you do that, you see the image. And I believe it's like 3D what you see. I think I got it to work one time. I had to do the trick where like you put your nose up against the image and slowly walk backwards. Like that was the cheat. I could never whistle either. There's a few things I've had to cheat at in my life. Um, so once you see the image, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you got it from then on. So what I'm about to explain is one of those things. You've either seen it and you can't ever unsee it, or I'm going to sound crazy to you and you're not going to see it. But I'm going to go ahead and plant this seed in your head, and then one day you're going to see it. Cliff High planted it in my head, and then I saw it. The biggest lie that we all believe, the base operating system lie that everyone in the Western world, and now a lot of the Eastern world, are operating on, that the ancients didn't have this lie in their head, and so they understood reality in a much deeper way than we do. The biggest lie we all believe is that reality is physical. There has never been and there will never be a physical reality. And I know as soon as I say that, my reaction to that, if I'm listening to this, is okay, Jared, then like if I get cut open and I'm bleeding to death, how does that work if there's no physical reality? All right. The only thing I can tell you to explain what I mean by this in response to that reaction is the following. I saw this Hindu holy man one time in like 2000. It was actually 2012, and I asked him to clear my heart chakra, and he did some shit, and I felt it immediately, and my behavior changed immediately, and I've never been the same. And then for 3 months after that, I had these random astral projections, which was cool because I was fascinated by astral projection from years before that, but I'd kind of like forgotten about it. And I had astral projection, and I went out, and anything you ever hear about astral projection, see people talking about, I had all those kind of different experiences. Okay, I don't want to go deep into it right now, but when I was out of my body, I had a body, if that makes any sense. I was in a different body. I was in like a lighter body, but it looks like my body. I even had clothes on somehow. Um, I didn't revert into being like an orb or anything like that. I was in a body that looked just like my body, but I could also see my physical body laying there when I first popped out. It's a fascinating experience. And if you have this experience, you know that from then on, you aren't your body, and you know that the spirit world's real. So if you're curious about how to have this experience, I don't know how to teach women how to have it. I know how to teach men how to have it. It's not easy, but any man can have this experience. So from that moment forward, I realized, like after I got back into the body I'm talking to you with right now, that if I get out of this body, I still have a body, and it looks just like this body. Then like, how is this body any more real than that body? That body felt actually more real than this one, and yet it came out of this one. Figure that shit out, because I never have. But I can tell you this: those experiences I was having outside of my body were absolutely spiritual experiences, and yet I experienced them as if they were more real than this physical world, which led me over time, in combination with listening to Cliff High and thinking deeply about the things he was saying. And you have to have a pretty good grasp of language and etymology to really get the way he thinks. Um, Led me to realize like there's nothing physical. We've been lied to about this concept that there's such a thing as physicality. Everything that you have ever experienced, can ever experience, or will ever experience is not physical. And I'm not saying it's spiritual because I can't prove it's spiritual either. What happens if you astral project? Yeah, I would say that's spiritual. But everything that you are experiencing, have experienced, and will experience is mental. It's all mental. The Matrix goes into this. Everything that you experience in life is going through your mind before it gets to you. Or you could say your brain. That's not really the same thing, and it's actually going through your mind, and your mind is a filter. And yes, your mind and your brain are connected, but they are not the same thing. Science will even tell you that, but then science doesn't really know what the mind is at that point. Everything is mental. Everything. And if you pull on that thread long enough, you start to realize that every individual, every body is imagined by a bigger mind, and that there might even be a set of these bigger minds that feed into an even bigger mind. And people call that one bigger mind that you ultimately get back to God, right? And God is dreaming all of this or imagining all of this. And we're a subset of the bigger minds. You finally understand like the resolution of like the double slit paradox, the resolution of Einsteinian relativity and quantum mechanics. When you get it, everything's mental. Everything in the and then like you got these people saying that the universe is a simulation, but actually if you dig deep enough you realize that doesn't actually work. But it kind of works. It kind of makes sense on the surface because A, we all understand how computer works now, and B, it's all mental. And the simulation hypothesis fits the mental model better than the physical model we've been programmed into, which broke down in physics 80 years ago already. And the mass consciousness is starting to process that. It's starting to digest that idea, finally, 80 years later, because that's how long it takes for the collective unconscious to get an idea that's discovered. It takes 80 years, which is a generation in the Bible is 80 years. We call it a turning nowadays. Or is that the set of 4 turnings? I don't know. I might have had that wrong. But 80 years. So everything is mental. And so we exist in a nested hierarchy of minds. We don't exist in a physical universe. Whatever this thing is that we consider a physical universe, it's somehow being processed through this nested hierarchy of minds. And so there is no physical universe. There is a nested hierarchy of minds passing experiences back and forth. You can even, and this is going to blow your mind because it blows my mind to this day, you could even look at life as being one giant metaphorical discussion between you and God. That's what one lifetime is. It's like one sentence in this giant metaphorical discussion. I mean, if you really break down what is even language, right? What is language? Language is just metaphors built on top of metaphors built on top of metaphors. That's all language is. So, keeping in mind that that's all that language is, you're having life is you having a discussion with God because everything is mental, and you are like a sub-mind of a sub-mind. I don't know how many layers deep it actually goes of that ultimate one mind that it all derives from. So there's this conversation going back and forth up the chain between that mind and you, the sub-mind. And that is what we call life. And that is what we think of as the physical universe. And it's not. We aren't interacting in a world. We are having a discussion with the ultimate mind that is being mitigated through a layer of sub-minds back and forth. And we have flipped this around, twisted this up, done mental gymnastics to think of this as being a world in a planet that exists in space with all these other planets. And that's not really what's going on. It's a discussion between the ultimate architect and you, this little tiny sub-mind that's growing and learning and changing and figuring out how all this works. There's no physical universe. Everything is mental. Everything that has ever happened to you has been screened through your mind. So you've never experienced pure reality, whatever that is. Is there such a thing? we can't even prove there is such a thing. And the Matrix goes into that. Everything is mental. Everything has always been mental. And if it doesn't seem mental, if you think that something is outside of your mind, let me explain that to you. It's happening inside a bigger mind that your mind is subordinate to. That's how that works. There is no physical universe. Focus on it. Meditate on it. Let it percolate in the back of your brain for 10 years if you need to before you get it. Because there isn't one. There never was. And once you understand that there's no physical universe, you can start breaking the laws of physics, which is what the Matrix is a metaphor about. So if you want to be able to break the laws of physics, and people have done it in history, it's documented, then the first thing you gotta get through your skull, deep down, completely, truly understand, is that there is no physical universe, and there never was one.